Okay, so thank you and welcome to what we call the past, the present, and future of relationships. And like many of you, we're also a little struck at the title. So we're going to just keep it around relationships, and we're going to make this extremely informal. So anyone who has even a question in the middle, we're not keeping a question and answer session for the end, because then it's a hurry. So at any point, if you have a question for these two ladies and me also, just raise your hand and we can immediately get into it. Is that okay? Yeah? So thank you, both you wonderful women. Let me start with what a lot of people older than me, I don't want to reveal my age, say, that relationships today are not relationships, right? They are like our times, you know, how it was. So quickly from two amazing authors, a comment on this, because I don't know if you've also heard of something like that, but...
No, I can't say I've heard that.
Oh,
that
really?
relationships are not what they are. Aren't they always the same? I mean,
Nirmala.
everything else changes, but relationships are relationships. Maybe the way you relate is different today from what it was like 50 years ago, perhaps.
Could you elaborate that a bit?
Okay, so I've written about all kinds of relationships under the sun. So I've written in Mango Cheeks, Metal Teeth, my first novel. I wrote about, well, it's a coming-of-age story and a social satire. So the two main relationships here are, one is the protagonist is a child of 11 years old, and you're seeing the world through her eyes, actually. So you see all the sibling rivalries going on. She's come back to her ancestral home in Kerala for the summer vacations. And, we have this kind of romanticized notion of how children are. You know, when we are adults, we think of childhood with some nostalgia and, we romanticize it. But actually, it's a time which is very similar in many ways. Like, we have all these rivalries and jealousies and competitiveness with our cousins and so on. So I brought all of that out in that book. It's set against the summer vacation. And the other relationship that was there is the relationship between the householder and the domestic help. This book actually explores how children become aware of social differences for the first time. Right? We, as children, we are playing with the help. The help is teaching us how to cook, maybe. They are feeding us, all of that. And we are very happy to be with them all through the day. But at the same time, we don't realize that, they are eating from a different plate, or our hand-me-downs are going to them. And there is some moment, or maybe, a phase in which we grow up. And somehow then slowly we are no longer, we distance ourselves from them. And so it was this moment I wanted to capture in fiction. So it is that relationship between the householder and help also in that book which I was exploring. So it is that simmering, resentful, or mutually symbiotic, but also sometimes parasitic kind of relationship between, so the householder, theoretically they want the help to do well and come up in life, and they have all these noble intentions, but yes. They also think that, she's become too big for her boots. What does she think of herself? So those are the kind of, nuances which I wanted to capture, and hopefully I've done that in Mango Cheeks, Metal Teeth. So that is one kind of relationship. In The Monsters Still Lurk, it is really I'm exploring aging over a period of 25 years. And the protagonist is this young boy who starts off at, he's just getting out of college and starting work. So he's really starting out in life, and he's this callow, kind of carefree boy. And over 25 years, how he changes and how his relationship with his siblings, with his family changes. So how he becomes this sort of mature person who goes through a few knocks in life, and how he becomes he's actually not the favorite child in that sense when you start off. His elder brother is the achiever of the family. But towards the end, he becomes sort of the caregiver of his mother because of various reasons. So I was just exploring the changing relationships, because our relationships with our brothers and sisters change over time. Our relationships with our parents change over time. And the whole family dynamic changes. So that to me was very interesting, and that was what I was, exploring in The Monsters Still Love. And finally now with the Weird Women's Club, which is, which is really unabashed, book for women, about women. So it's about these three women who don't really conform to the social norm of being married with children. And how, as women, our identities are so much tied and so much shaped by expectations of society, of our parents. And those expectations are usually tied in with our family status, our relationship status. So our parents will say, I can die happy if you will just settle down. So settling down means getting married, right? And if your family has to can be complete only if you have children. So what of the women who are divorced or widowed or don't have children, or single? What of them? How do they feel? So that is what I wanted to explore. And it's a very tongue-in-cheek, irreverent kind of book, which kind of, from the title you can make out. In fact, the moment the book came out and, people were saying, oh, the Weird Women's Club. So all women immediately identified with that. Even the women who are quite conventional. Because I think women are scrutinized and judged so much. So at some stage in your life, you've always felt like the weird woman, right? So women didn't need any explanation as to what the book was about, I noticed. So it's just kind of the title kind of cocks a note at how, society looks at us. So it's a little bit also about reclaiming our lives from loss and from our expectation of what our lives will be when it doesn't go according to a certain script. But it's also, about our relationship with society. And should we take society so seriously? It's actually quite ridiculous, some of the attitudes. And women needn't feel so, shaped by society's scrutiny, I feel. So I feel that if you can laugh at, society's attitudes, they no longer have power over us. So that's what the Weird Women's Club is about. It's like, just making fun of, society's attitudes. And these three women, how, they deal with everything that is thrown to them with, not very, I wouldn't say they're very saintly or forbearing or anything. They're quite messy, actually. But I think they're very real, like all of us. So they have all these complicated feelings and all that. For example, Avanti, who is divorced, she's imagining all kinds of gruesome things happening to her ex. Like to her ex. Like that he'll be bitten by a rabid dog and all that. Yeah, so it's like, it's what we would be at our worst, I think. What we would like to, when we say we want to kill somebody, but so when you fictionalize it, you exaggerate it a little bit. So that's it. That's the Weird Women's
I don't know about
Club.
exaggeration, but there have been many moments in my life when I wanted to really kill somebody. So it's not really an exaggeration. But I'm going to definitely ask you about the cult of sisterhood later, because I find it very intriguing in terms of relationships. Srimati Nirmala.
Srimati, okay. So first of all, I was introduced as Srimati Nirmala. So taking off from what you were saying, I'm a happily single woman. And so there goes the single status, happy gypsy status, doing what I want to do and being extremely happy about it. Now taking off on whether relationships have changed from the past. I don't know how far back we are going to, but from the time I was a kid up until now, I noticed that a lot of relationships have moved online. So people say, okay, let's catch up over a WhatsApp call or whatever, or a phone call. But somehow I am not able to do that. I just like to see a person face to face, feel you in flesh and blood. And that means so much. And also, a lot of I have taken care of parents who've both been ill and who passed away. But I was there. But now a lot of people are managing it from, say, the US or wherever they are, based at trying to get people to take care of their parents. And in India, it's so difficult. Caretaking is not at all easy. And none of the homes actually really look after our senior citizens so well. We are not that good with our senior citizens or with our children for that matter. So, so there's a lot of this distance managing, and with it a lot of angst. People have cameras in their homes, and and also, I also often tell people that while I was growing up, I got a mobile phone when I was 28 or something like that. And we went out, had our fun, one phone call, said we are going, we'll return the next day or whatever. But now parents are constantly monitoring their children with GPS. So this is sort of, I think it's very stifling from both ends, because we are born into this world, neither do people have stopped having confidence both in themselves and in the people around them. And only when we start exuding that level of confidence does it come back to us. So, for a simple example, like when I went to Orissa to write, I document for the social sector, and my fiction is largely influenced by the work I do in the rural regions. So when something really consumes me, it comes back, it overtakes me, and I come back, and it just comes out in a stream of conscious manner as my stories. So when I was in Orissa in Balangir district a few years ago, before I wrote my novel Hunger's Daughters, there was this little child who we were supposed to meet at the government school. And she didn't turn up for about 1 hour. And me and the social workers and everyone else was there, waiting for the longest time. And then we decided to walk down the road. There are precisely 10 hutments there, Shauntal village. Munda's, no, Shantal village, and we went to the last hutment at the bottom of that little muddy road, and I saw a flash of pink disappearing into the house. Then we just walked. There are these dingy hutment, not even a house. And we walk inside, and this little child who's about 12 years old, totally frightened and totally shaken. Suddenly I couldn't help it. I don't know her, but I just grabbed her in my arms, and she's just shaking inside me. I've just gone to do some documentation work, for an NGO. And there was this beautiful bond between a slightly older woman and a 12-year-old child, and a bond that did not exist before, but something that the universe had created in that moment and that time. And where I went on to tell her story as part of my fiction. So, and so this child, it so happened that her mother had gone missing that day. Her father had been dead for a long time. But within 1 hour, she bounced back, and she was on her feet talking to us, laughing, because she was also the star of that government school. She used the NGO had taught her how to raise goats, and she had ducks which laid golden eggs because they got her a lot of money, and she had 3,000 rupees in State Bank of India. So that was the beauty of it. And here I came back as an older person who's maybe a decade or two older than her, and having learned so much about resilience, so much about the power of relationships, because then over that day itself, she started becoming confident, because the NGO workers were with her, and as a tribal community, everybody steps in. You become part of that whole of the child, so they automatically start taking care of that child, unlike what we see in the cities. So to me, the rural regions are my learning, my platform for learning. It's where the real people live. It's where you see real emotions, real resilience, and the women over there are rock stars, according to me. So that was while I was doing Hunger's Daughters, and when I was doing Taboo, my next novel, which is influenced by underage girls who are kidnapped and trafficked. So I'd gone to document for another NGO, which rescues these girls who have been sold off to brothels and other places. From various locations, Nagpur, Calcutta, all over the place. And my friend was heading that organization. She still heads it. It's called Freedom Firm. And they bring them first, they go to different homes, and then I first met them in Ooty, where they were making jewels, many of them, and selling it. And many of them were above 18 at that time, because they'd been rescued. And they were also HIV positive and all that. But oh my, what smiles, what life. And you know, some of them were also married to people who were also HIV positive. They had children. Some people from abroad were adopting those children to take care of them because they were not HIV positive, you know. And then later I had gone to Calcutta to their workshop where they were actually training these children to make this fashion jewelry. It's called Ruhama Designs. And there was one girl who was the workshop manager, and we took a walk. She was about 22 years old. And she gave me her wedding invitation. She had also been a sex worker. She had been kidnapped and, you know, sold off to a brothel. And it so happened, then I asked her, she just told me her story and said that her sister and brother-in-law had sold her off when she was 8 years old. And when she went to this, and in that brothel that she went to, they were forcing that child to have her first customer. And a woman who was above 40 said she will protect her. And that pimp stabbed that woman in front of this child's eyes. And then this child went on to have many more bleak years after that. And she left little telltale signs, you know. They rescued them from some industrial town in Tier 2 Bengal. And, you know, other children were scared to leave those signs because they were scared that they will be, you know, further beaten up or killed by the brothel owners. So, and then I came back, and then she had rehabilitated. She was the workshop manager, so gleeful, and also with the ability to want to nurture a new relationship, a fresh relationship with another person. So my learning from there was, again, not just feminine resilience, but the amount of work that our non-governmental organizations are putting into segments that none of us common people go to, certainly not the governments go to, any government, no authorities, nobody is even aware of these things. So whatever little work is happening because some people have pledged their lives to this. And that is the beauty of certain relationships that exist, you know. And even when I was working on my other book, Community Catalyst, which is a commission work, it's based on the life of a civil servant, Bharatlal Meena. He comes from a small Meena tribe in Rajasthan, in Sawai Madhopur district. And during his period, he's now the retired Chief Secretary of Higher Education, Karnataka cadre, but he was posted to Karnataka that year. And when I was researching this story, I went to his village. I met his mother, 89 years old, plowing the fields, tilling it, Master Rani, you know, and all the villagers. Some of the women were wearing goongats, but they get together in the night. Everyone smokes together. You know, the men, the women, they huddled separately, but they smoke whatever. And, you know, there's so much openness about the way they live. And then I also made a comment to Mr. Meena. I said, sir, all is very well, so much is being done, but why are the women sitting in goongats and why aren't they performing that street play that the men are doing? That day, he opened it up to the women in his village, all right? And they came and they sang for us, and it just continues to be that way in that village. You know, these are little things. Sometimes somebody else is coming to you, talking to you about it. It's about the willingness to receive and to give at every point in our lives. And when that's there, relationships are so beautiful because all we have in this world are you and I for each other at any point.
That's so amazing, which means all those who haven't read both their books, you should totally, and this is when I make a quick marketing pitch, pick up the books. Also, I personally feel that women writing is something that needs to be appreciated more, and I'm glad Mathrubhumi is giving that kind of space. Any questions for these ladies before we go on, ask about relationships? Any questions from anybody and it could be even general, right? Not just to do with your books. No, I don't see switch off my mic only. No, I don't see any hands raising, right? Nobody? Okay, you can ask them eventually. So I'm going to ask both of you very, very basic questions based on your books, on your characters. Is there some definition of a good relationship and a bad relationship? And how do you understand it both as human beings and as authors, as writers, you know, based on the characters? Because as you said, your relationship changes. You know, as you're growing up, maybe your father is your hero, but from teenage times you realize that, no, he's bad. You know what I'm saying? So I think based on your books, your own experiences, if you could explain if there's something like that.
Well, I think, I don't think any relationship is good always. You'll have moments where you have, you know, tensions and friction and all of that. I think a good relationship is perhaps where the good moments are greater than the bad moments. And, there is a willingness to communicate, perhaps, and a willingness to forgive and, not hold grudges about things. I think that would be a good relationship to me. Well, a bad relationship is where there is no intention or no desire to understand the other person, to walk in the other person's shoes. Because I think everybody has some baggage, and the way you relate with the world in general is based on what is happening in your life now as well. You may not be a bad person, but maybe something is happening in your life which maybe in that moment it's making you irritated, or you're not feeling very generous in that moment. And the people who meet you in that moment may think you're maybe a stingy person or a irritable person. But you may not be that person, So maybe a little bit of empathy is all that is required for relationships to work. And I think a little distance is good as well. I'm not one for always being, whether it's husband, wife, or parents and children. I think a little distance is good. So yeah. In terms of good and... So in the Weird Women's Club, for example, these are three ladies who are very different from each other and probably would never have been friends. It's just that, because they feel a little awkward with, women who conform and who are the perfect women. Circumstances bring them together. So, all of them are kind of, in fact, they even gossip about each other behind their backs. And this is very typical of female relationships also, I'm sorry to say. But it is, So, the fact is that, so two of them will, when the other one is not there, they'll say, oh gosh, she's like this and all that. But the fact of the matter is that at the end of the day, they appreciate each other and they're there for each other when, the chips are down. So, so that's what I would say. There is black and white in everything. And I think in fiction, what is very important and what I find is important for my characters is nobody should be black or white, because then they won't be believable at all. And I am not in favor of this Bollywood kind of, the mother is, motherhood is something... they put it on a pedestal, mothers, for example. So for me, for example, even my romantic hero in the book, one of them, he's that pathetic figure at the school gate who wears, these inappropriate T-shirts, which has some slogan like "Kiss me twice, I'm schizophrenic." He wears it to the school, and everybody is like a bit wary of him, like this is kind of a creepy guy. So, but as the book goes on, you will find that he's actually quite a nice guy. So I see everybody in shades of gray, even to me, some of the most interesting characters to write are the nasty characters, because I feel even I am like that, that I'm, even the negative characters, I identify with them also. It's like, these are the things I would say if I had no filter whatsoever, and perhaps somewhere I feel these things, but we try to, overcome these things. But I enjoy writing negative characters as well. So yeah, I think all my characters, so even, sibling relationships and all of them, I don't show it as an idealized kind of relationship. I always show the friction. And I think all relationships are like that in real life. And I try to capture that in fiction as well.
Unless it's a Suraj Barjatya film where everything is so nice that you want to puke.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Nirmala.
Yeah, so I like Aruna said, you'll never have a novel written at the end of the day if there are no bad characters or, there are no blacks to the white. I mean, we should not stereotype black and white again. If there are no negatives to the positive, So, to me, what's the question? Yeah.
What is a good bad?
Good. So good yeah. So basically, to me, to say it broadly, a bad relationship is one that actually pulls you down, anybody who is pulling you down, who's being negative of what you are to what you are, you know. It could be your parents, it could be your grandparents, it could be your friends, it could be your enemy, it could be just about anybody who is constantly pulling you down and not allowing you to step up, right? And is like that heavy stone, you know, in your bag. And a good relationship is one where, you know, you're flying, you feel lighter, you're doing newer things. And I just feel eternally blessed as an only child to have, everybody looks at me, where did you get that stunning set of friends? Amazing human beings, right? And each of them is a spectacular woman, man, whatever, constantly uplifting each other. And you know, it always goes back to the saying where you say, you point one finger at someone, four are pointing back at you, you know? So, and that is what, so because, and it's also you need to find that. The moment you feel that something is pulling you down, there's no need to point fingers at that, but just move away. And then in later years, of course, now since I've become a yoga practitioner and now as a yoga teacher for the past year, what I have begun to experience is a beautiful relationship between my own body, breath, and mind. And you get so elevated that nothing actually perturbs you. I have like reached a point of no expectations either from myself or from anyone else, and I'm eternally floating around, you know. But then it's just something that we need to do for ourselves. And in India especially, women don't take that time off to do stuff for themselves. You need to step out and do it. You need to seek those friends, right? Like you would go and seek those good books or whatever. It's a lot of effort. You know, they say people get married. It's not about the wedding day. It's about working out that entire marriage throughout your life, right? So similarly, every day is a step forward. We need to seek. It could be somebody in the audience and we may strike a beautiful, like Preeti and I met a few years ago in MBIFL, and today we're like, very good friends, you know. We see each other at Lit Fests. Aruna and I know each other from Bangalore. Whenever we meet, there's so much uplifting, such a beautiful vibe. It's what you give is what you get. So when somebody, I have learned it the hard way. When my mom always used to say, just don't point fingers, just shut up, you know. So, and then don't think about it. Go to your own number. You come alone, you go alone. You may have a boyfriend, you may not have a boyfriend. You may have a husband, you may not have a husband. But just do it your own way. First, give yourself that space, give yourself that importance, by which I'm not saying being narcissistic, but understand who you are and what you're here to do, and so take it forward. So to me, you know, even in the characters that, you know, that emerge in my book, they're all, for me, I saw this sort of strength because the NGO had empowered that little girl Shushanti to earn her own living. Tomorrow her mum there, not there, storm, wind, hail, sunshine. That child is going to live and live happily and also give. And today I went, you know, that's the beauty of it, or how the girls in sex trade had been empowered, or, you know, how every life that you meet is being constantly empowered to do something. So I think as people also, we should constantly look around and forever appreciate and empower people around us just like that, because it also comes back to you. Good karma does.
Mic off, sorry. So I find both what you're saying very interesting, because at one point you've written a book on sisterhood. And Nirmala, you're talking about mine? No. It's Podi. And you're talking about women having a relationship with themselves, as in sort of appreciating themselves. Why is it so tough? One. Yeah, and I'm generally saying, you know, why is it so tough for women to look and say, oh my God, I'm amazing, or whatever, right? And when I say relationship with yourself, irrespective of the age, why do you see, and if you do agree, it's perfectly okay if you have another point of view, why is this so tough? And second also is this entire thing of sisterhood. Now looking at popular culture, there always are a lot of movies that celebrate, you know, men, brotherhood, and going to Goa maybe, or Spain, or whatever. Why are there no narratives around sisterhood, around, you know? Sisterhood changes with, you switch off my mic like all the time. Use this. Yeah. It's okay, it's okay. Charge is gone.
Yeah,
So yeah, so that's pretty much the question.
Check,
so, yeah.
check.
Two things. One, she said women, having a relationship with themselves, about loving yourself and saying at times it's okay to put myself first. And second is around the whole sisterhood thing. Why is it always a celebration of, the cult of brotherhood, yari, all that is happening? A little around your book, and why is it important?
Well, I think in one word, I think it's conditioning. We are right from childhood, we are just conditioned to be, one thing I find really irritating is when people say, women are great multitaskers. Yeah, we are not. We are forced to be multitaskers. Everything is on our heads. And men will be sitting and watching TV and saying, you're a good multitasker.
Oh, multitask.
And men have, this kind of tunnel vision where they can they can only do one thing and they can ignore everything else that's happening around. All the housework, whatever. But we are expected to do everything. And we do it because otherwise it doesn't get done. So, it's a fact. And so anyway, all these narratives that we are told about women, that we are multitasking, we are saintly, we are forbearing, we are self-sacrificing, all of that. These are all things that we are told. Popular culture tells us all these things. And we must stop and ask ourselves, is this what we want to be? Is this true, and is this what we want to be? Even when it comes to, for example, people say, feminism is all about working women. But who's giving women the support that is required so that they can be working women? So you're going to work, you're working as hard as men, and then you're coming home and doing everything that is required to be done. So where are the support systems for that? So we are not talking about those things. So we need to be talking about those things, for example. So these are conversations that need to happen, and we need to ask, even in the Weird Women's Club, the message is that we need to think for ourselves society is not going to change overnight. We can only change the way we think. If we start feeling like a failure, for example, because we're single or we don't have children, that society makes you feel that way, and they judge men differently. So you've all heard of the eligible bachelor, but have you ever heard of the eligible spinster? No, spinster is a negative. It's a negative connotation.
A bad word, yeah.
Right? So similarly, a divorcee, a divorced man is desirable, available. A man without children is footloose and fancy-free, whereas a woman is a barren old maid, So these are things which are so, sort of conditioned, and it's just part of our DNA. I mean, for generations we've been told these things. And I have seen, there are women who have read the Weird Women's Club, and they've told me, after reading this, though it's a very light, fun book actually. I'm not saying it's a feminist manifesto or anything. It's a fun book. But there are women who have read it, and they are saying, there's something after reading it that it was so cathartic for me, and the way I viewed myself changed. Because, you're saying this is rubbish, these attitudes are rubbish, and the women, at the end of it, because of the sisterhood they have, and because of the common thing that none of them conform, and none of them are saintly or forbearing, or, they're all messy. They're like, you won't aspire to be any of them. But they're very real. They are like you and me. So I think that's what women kind of relate to. And why sisterhood is important is because only the sisterhood understands. Only, women understand what you're going through. As I said, when I said the Weird Women's Club, women knew exactly what I was talking about. So if you want support, you need a sisterhood. And why I wanted to write about sisterhood, and why I felt there were not enough stories about sisterhood, which showed also the fun part of sisterhood. The banter, the risque talk, the laughter. And for me, the best friends are those who don't let me take myself seriously, who don't let me mope. So I wanted to capture that kind of sisterhood. And I don't think there are enough stories, at least I have not read too many stories about, that kind of fun sisterhood. And I think we need to, you said, why is it important to have those stories? Because, we need to change the way we think about what, our identities as women, why is it that if we are divorced, for example, it's just a circumstance, our marriage failed. Okay, it's just a circumstance. Why do we feel bad about it? Why is there a stigma attached to it? Similarly with widows, unfortunately we are a society, we treat our widows, it's awful. So even among urban educated people, widows feel as though they are on the fringe of society. So what has happened? Your spouse has died. It's not your fault. Why are you being judged for it? Why are you considered inauspicious, for example? Right? Even in functions, like widows are kept to the fringes of a function because they're considered inauspicious. So we need to question this. It's high time we questioned all these. And I think, a kind of sort of comic stories, because that's why I think tyrants don't like humorists, because when you make fun of things, you kind of diminish the importance. So I think if I can laugh at society's attitudes towards women, I kind of diminish all these ridiculous attitudes, and I think that's why it's important for me to write the way I write.
Oh, and I get you, because the people saying that the emperor is not wearing clothes are very less, and the silence generally, and 12 years of stand-up comedy, I completely understand what you're saying. But Nirmala, the question is to you, because you also are someone who talks about loving the body, yeah? And what I find very interesting is that for women, if we go by the so-called norms, settle, have children, by the time you're 40 and you've had the child at the right time, you're good to go, right? The child doesn't need you. You're good to sort of go up that hill and do your work and accelerate, and and then suddenly perimenopause or your body screws up on you, right? And people don't get that. At that age, suddenly, you're like, wait, why am I not able to perform? So here is Nirmala, who's also believing in loving self with the body, right? So again, it's all about, the two questions are, again, why is it important, both from your book's point of view, yours, and about sisterhood, if you want to throw some light.
See, basically, yeah, I do know that a lot of women go through this, hormonal changes at different points in their life, especially at childbirth. I haven't experienced those things, but women go through a lot of, it's like whenever I birth a book, I go through it, but it's a different sort of birthing, okay? And then also hormonal changes could happen, yeah? But what happened to me was discovering Ayurveda, which Kerala is very good at. Okay? So I happen to have a Tibetan doctor who practices, that is also a form of Ayurveda. It's Tibetan medicine, and he studied in Dharamsala. And, who talks about the foods like that are good for you, not good for you. Like, for example, when I went to him 4 years ago after my mother had died, I had blurry vision. And I have a wonderful, apart from sisterhood, brotherhood of people, unclehood of people. So I know I'm going to talk about that. Some amazing, most uplifting men. I'll tell you after this. So they sent me to this Dr. Jampa Yonton, and he said, so I had been getting migraines all my life and all that stuff. So he just said one thing. He said he gave me marigold tea, by the way, and my eyesight got rectified within 10 days. It was back to normal. Secondly, I just started drinking a lot more water. And then he told me about the foods that work for me and that don't work for me. So now I just simply follow that, and I live happily with no medicines. Right? So if you have a migraine, you have to pamper your liver. So things like this. So I think each one of us needs to go to an Ayurveda. It's such a blessing in this country, and especially in Kerala. If you can find a good person, go find out what your doshas are. Just follow what doesn't work for you. And, especially during period cycles or any of those hormonal change times, you're not supposed to eat salty or spicy food. Women are eating that. You are going to feel uncomfortable either which way. So these are things that you just learn and internalize and just drink. We have water, hot water, which Kerala drinks. I carry it in a flask and I also drink only hot water all the time. These are some learnings, and that will take you very far. And alongside that, now I'm also into yoga, so it's just flying without wings. Okay, but then talking about sisterhood and brotherhood, as I was telling you all, I have these tremendous friends who are women and also men. And when I was still little, my mother told me once, go break a coconut. I was some 10, 12 years old. So I went and broke the coconut, and my finger went into that coconut shell, and I screamed. My dad said, why? I'm not sending her to school for her to sit in the kitchen and cook. That was brilliant, because this is how I was brought up. I was an only child. And everybody's, even today, people who are like 20 years younger than me, you are fortunate. I mean, men turning around telling you that. So I was pretty much pampered, and like as the first grandchild to my grandfather who was in the British Army and all that stuff, we like put on the head only. Listen to her. You boys do this for the girls. So that's the kind of household, I've been around. So that's very, very emancipating. And a mother who says, don't take any bullshit from nobody. Be very kind to everybody, but don't take bullshit. On the road, if anybody misbehaves with me, I ride my scooter, I stop my car in front of them, I give it to him good, take his picture and go. Because I don't want them to trouble any other woman. Okay? Now coming to the men, I sit in a place called Koshi's in Bangalore, and it's an iconic restaurant, and I write there. I go after lunch, and whenever I'm in town, I write there until 10 o'clock in the night. And we have a little table, it's called the Ladies and Knights of the Square Table, and the owner of the restaurant is Mr. Prem Koshi, and all these elderly people, Hamid and Satish sir and all of them, they are in their 70s, wonderful, amazing human beings, constantly uplifting you, constantly telling you, hey, you're looking hot in that dress, hey, you're doing this, do that, darling, do this, that. So it's so beautiful, because they're constantly appreciating every little thing that you're doing. And that's what we want to be to each other. Appreciate each other. You feel like doing a lot more for each other, right? And I just feel extremely fortunate to be blessed with these wonderful men also. And in fact, all our narratives, our feminist narratives, should also, actually, the men should be reading more of it to, first of all, understand what is going on. A lot more men should be sensitized to this. And I also believe that we live in a society where women pull women down, Like I was sharing at another session. In front of my house, somebody was chopping trees in Karnataka. It's prohibited. You need, not trees, a branch. It's prohibited. You need to get the permission of the forest department or the BBMP to chop that branch. It was a huge, beautiful branch which had nothing to do with anyone's house. But the people in the opposite building came, and one woman was standing there, and somebody was trying to chop it. He said, hey, what's going on? She said, who are you? You always interfere with us. You live alone. I'll call my husband. I said, bloody call your husband. That's it. He came. I called the cops. You call. I can call my uncle, brother, friend, boyfriend, anyone I can call, but I will not. You will learn to listen to a woman. It might be a little difficult for me, but if I do not start putting my foot down, how am I going to find myself? If I don't make those baby steps or big steps or whatever, nobody else can do it for you. Right? Only you can eat, or only you can do certain things for yourself. Only you can breathe. So similarly, only you can do, you should believe that. And of course, it's difficult if you've been constantly pulled down all the time. And there's also a big problem with all religions across society, because all religious texts are written by men. Okay? Where is the feminist perspective? What are you all going around saying? Where are the women? God doesn't have to be a man. God, to me, God is the river, the tree, the whatever, somebody who's kind to me, whatever. So since time immemorial, you have all of this also. So even the people who are tormenting you are confused, right? So it's all very well to say. So it's just about us finding some patience and having some gentle conversations with people. When you stop being angry at that person, just approach it from a different angle. Try to do that, you know. Because I have learned this the hard way, because I used to be an extremely short-tempered human. Hold everything. But now, when I've started to be calm, I am calmer, everything around me is calm, and everybody seems to be listening. So just, that's the difference, you know. And even those kids who are like shaped by the NGOs who appear in my novels, they're all taught this. This is a sort of self-resilience which we need to absolutely work on. You have to have that non-negotiable time during the day, right? Either in the morning or the evening, whenever you have. Just keep that 1 hour for yourself and work on yourself. It's very important.